Hi, I'm Tim Gaffney, author of Dayton Beer, A History of Brewing in the Miami Valley. This is part 2 of my virtual book talk about Miamisburg's old breweries. I was scheduled to give a talk for the Miamisburg Historical Society, but it had to be canceled because of the pandemic, and the Historical Society had to close its doors for a while. So I'm making this series of videos as a virtual book talk that you can watch from home. It also gives me the chance to add information and visual materials that I wasn't able to fit into my book. In part 1, I talked about Miamisburg's early years and the earliest reference I found to a local brewery, an 1837 traveler's guide. The earliest named brewer I found was Charles Schroeder, a German immigrant. He bought Lot 215 in 1848. The deed transfer record said Lot 215 was already known as the Brewery Lot. You can see it labeled on this 1851 map. I wasn't able to learn who started the brewery or how long it had been in business. Schroeder sold the brewery in 1853. Whether later owners continued to operate the brewery, I haven't learned. By 1875, it was a coal yard, and today it's a part of the site of the Miamisburg Civic Center. But another brewery was in operation at least by 1860. This was the earliest brewery I found with a name attached to it. Back then, folks knew it as the Miamisburg Brewery. Like Schroeder's brewery, the history of the Miamisburg Brewery is a bit hazy, but the records I searched did give up a few clues about where it was, who started it, and roughly when. It stood just a few blocks from the site of Schroeder's brewery, but the exact location is difficult to describe because some of the downtown streets in Miamisburg have changed over the last 150 years or so. So let's take a closer look. This aerial photo that I took recently shows how downtown Miamisburg looks today. Here's Ferry Street, and running south from it is Riverfront Park. Notice Miami Street running along the river, and notice Water Street just behind the buildings. Here's the west end of West Central Avenue, and farther south, here's the Linden Avenue Bridge. Now here's a fanciful aerial view from an 1886 lithograph. Again, here's Ferry Street. Here's Central, or Market Street as it was named then. And here's Linden, or what was then Bridge Street. This map from the 1875 Montgomery County Atlas gives us a better view. Here's Ferry. What land records tell us, through a number of clues, is that by 1860 a brewery was standing somewhere on these lots along the river south of Ferry Street. It was located between the river and Water Street, about halfway between Ferry and Market, or West Central as we call it today. Water Street appears to be about where Miami Street is today, but Miami Street doesn't appear as a named street on 19th century maps. The lots are easier to see on this 1848 plat map. In 1856, a German immigrant named John Herman, or Harmon as his name is spelled in some records, owned lot 147. That year he bought the two lots south of it, 148 and 149, as well as the north 9 feet of lot 150. He paid $450. In 1859, the remainder of lot 150 was bought for $250 by another German immigrant, George Wilhelm Nuss, or William Nuss, of Bavaria. Nuss was Herman's son-in-law. In 1854, he had married Herman's daughter, Margaret. The records of those deed transfers say nothing about a brewery, and the prices paid don't suggest anything of great value stood on the lots. But in 1860, John Herman sold lots 148, 149, and the top of lot 150 to his children, Philip Herman and Margaret Nuss, for $1, out of his love and affection for them. The record of the transfer specified that it included, quote, all personal property belonging to the brewery. Did John Herman or his son Philip build a brewery on those lots? I suspect it was William. I haven't found this brewery mentioned in any earlier records, and William was the only one of the three who was identified as a brewer in the 1860 census. John Herman is listed in later records as a farmer. Philip was a tobacco dealer before he also became a farmer. In 1868, Philip sold his share of the lots to William and Margaret. At least by 1867, the Miamisburg Bulletin was carrying ads for the Miamisburg Brewery and Malt House. Nuss's beer might have been known beyond Miamisburg. His ads boasted that beer will be promptly delivered to order at any point in the county if wanted in sufficient quantity to warrant. The Miamisburg Brewery must have done well. In 1873, Nuss registered a new plat just south of the village line in Miami Township, approximately where Community Park stands today. It would be called the Miami Valley Brewery. That's all for Part 2. In Part 3, I'll tell you more about William Nuss and the brewery he built into a prominent Miamisburg business. Meanwhile, you can order Dayton Beer online from Amazon.com, either in print or as a Kindle ebook. When businesses reopen, you'll find it at Barnes & Noble booksellers and at Carillon Historical Park in Dayton. Remember, read prodigiously, drink moderately, and wash your hands. Cheers!